You know.
I don't know.
You know. I see. I know. I feel it. Okay, I need to figure out where my app is. Oh.
Do y'all feel like I should time you, or are y'all timing yourselves?
I'm just trying to find my app right now, so give me a second. And no, I think we can time ourselves. Unless you don't trust it, Cody. Then
No,
I can
but
get
also
it.
have like novice confused. Timing yourselves. I go shit. That's why judges should time novice rounds.
This is the novice round, Cody.
Yeah.
No, that's
It's gonna turn into one.
Yeah. Real quick.
Just see your plenty of.
Who? What the freak? Hey Justin.
Is this area in the field of view?
Kevin? No.
That was for the speech go.
You can't read it on the board. I wasn't able to read it on the board when they wrote it before on the stream. But
Really, they had a worse one.
you're within the view.
as long as the one light is not in the view, like it should be fine, right?
No. You got 24 options. Actually, what was that?
27 plus
28
others.
options?
No, double because cap and not cap.
So 28 options?
Numbers.
48 options.
And capitals are different.
62.
I wasn't going to do the math to add the numbers in.
There's a lot of different options.
Not really.
I did it earlier in the year.
It took like 4 tries.
Just develop and implement the machine learning script to do it. I don't think you even need to do machine learning, just use brute force. No, you don't.
You can get that shit off GitHub.
Almost said Grubhub again.
I'm hoping I got that right. I really.
Is that NGF? Is that what that is?
HK. THNGHK. Did you see the last stream? I did this cool little thing where during prep time, they have a big thing that says prep that hovers over their head, so you know who's prepping.
That's kind of cool.
It's just sad.
Kevin?
What?
You're not an expert.
Okay. Nice argument, man. I'm really gonna extend that one. Okay.
Are we ready to get this round started?
Justin watching me debate feels so fucking wrong.
What?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still your judge, so like.
That's just as wrong.
Yeah.
But you've also judged me online before, so I'm kind of used to it.
I'm judging you all the time.
Most people are.
Never ends.
That camera's not on, right?
What?
Is it on?
Yes.
Wait, can they hear what I'm saying right now?
Yes.
Okay, I was gonna say something completely different. Good thing I censored myself.
Good call. Good call.
Ready? I'm not. Okay. 1. The Trump administration is taking a step backwards in cybersecurity, eliminating cyber corner positions for the U.S. risk. Yeah, I'm not reading a new one. Gallery 18. The absence of cybersecurity leader may leave the United States more vulnerable. The Republicans, Democrats, are concerned to eliminate the corporate corner positions is a major step backwards. And the duty warrants the growing threats in Cyber Command direct release human capital approach to lose strategy goes in the wrong direction. Roger 17. Cyber has something to debate a problem. The levels of trash and threats and levels of malware activity facing cyberspace and growing. Those threats come from state and non-state actors, whether the U.S. scam, vulnerabilities, Iran, China, North Korea, especially Russian threat state actors, because we're just going to be taking a hard-moving capital approach doing business, losing strategy and plan. The United States federal government will use Cyber Command to implement machine learning intrusion detection systems to protect critical water infrastructure. Next is going to be Solvency 1. Machine learning is key to understanding, preventing, and protecting from cyber attacks. Ultimately, are heavily dependent on cybersecurity professionals. Find it difficult to keep with the word priorly and candidate 17. Next, networks are constantly under attack. More networks are protecting devices, spreading log and tracking information regarding activity. Unfortunately, fans hide their footprint. Additionally, environmental activity is far more challenging for professionals to handle. New alerting methods or technology labor, and this is machine learning offers promising results in dealing with security events. And machine learning has shown to have a 90% success rate and can reduce the amount of time it takes to secure a network freely in 17. The model to perform a high accuracy model identifying providing response to security events. And the cyber threats will only increase in the future. We need to adopt better technology to handle the body attack freely in 17. The current cyber servers involve the critical and present operation. They adapt and connected device equipment, conventional security measures, running here means security personnel incapable of defending entire networks. Machine learning acts force multiplier and traditional IDS systems are not adequate for facing new cyber threats. Upgrading IDS systems are better to defending emergency situational. Best 13. So typical IDS systems are determining general purpose networks and needed introducing such elements of context and sound supporting the scientific community and instruction to great need, providing IDS intelligence and automatic capabilities in order for them to respond rapidly, effective emergency situations, especially in isolated scenarios. And machine learning aids in IDS systems preventing cyber attacks on critical infrastructure in 8 or 16. Cyber trending critical infrastructure become more sophisticated and harder to detect. Traditional IDS are not designed to these cyber attack. Machine learning techniques bring a necessary complement to IDS in detecting cyber attacks. The threat container in real data sets, primary water distribution systems, and brands. And advantage one's water. 1. The Trump administration is not focused on improving infrastructure in African American communities. Algord 17. American society and civil engineering, American infrastructure D+ grade, and we're focused on listed infrastructure measure in African American communities. African and Black infrastructure results in failing grade and proposing racial segregation alignment to migrant groups to invest in underdeveloping infrastructure restated to military minority groups. And African Americans especially needed infrastructure investment. The Trump administration is not going to take it seriously in addressing African Americans, and environmental racism disproportionately affects people of color due to proximity to treatment water plants. Lord 18. Communities are constantly primary people of color are disproportionately affected by national water and waste problems and racist influence. Likelihood to exploit environmental hazard. People of color are more likely to be water counterparts in their later needs, which plant plants to manipulate hazard water landfills and the environmental expiration existing inequalities. Environmental racism refers to any policy practice directing distinction effective disadvantages individual groups and communities based on race and color. And Black communities are seen as disposable. Devaluation can be seen through the shrinking investment in critical infrastructure policy 16. Abandonment can be seen in the shrinking investment in critical infrastructure, and those who know radically devaluation simulating to the simulation argue that Black residents are considered 3 outcasts, underground and threat. And Russia targets African Americans through cyber attacks and building racial division. Marks 19. The burden over to luring yet another voters and Black American priority those bring on their borders, and researchers found that Russian effects in targeting African Americans are more sophisticated and systematic and previously known. In fact, more known that Black communities are the top target. And environmental racism is the evaluation of Black communities. Black communities are no longer valuable, disposable. Environmental racism magnifies all aspects of racism. Policy 16. It is no accident that U.S. surplus population is supposed to be non-white, and devaluation of risking bodies and certain features of global capitalism for centuries. The racist capitalism captures this actual capitalism exploiting culture and social destruction, for instance, race, gender, region, and nationality. And environmental racism manifests use to push the unseen genocide of African Americans. RC 18. Environmental degradation endangers everyone in population, ensuring continues to impact more heavily than the other the people targeted by racism is devaluation and genocide over a certain period of time. Pollution, climate change, and environmental degradation. People are generally lack the resources to move the perception and the voice of the people and largely marginalized, including the mainstream environmental movement, and challenge racism and classism is unwelcome to those populations. And iron and water leads to dehumanizing health conditions is already in fact you can vote on. Laura 17. Iron in the drinking water classified as contaminated iron offers bacteria and feed off those environments and those in small organisms harmful and disintegration, serious in health and can be developing including iron overload. These affect millions of people in the United States. Iron overload can lead to liver health, pericarditis damage, as well as diabetes. And the app is not saying we solve for racism, it's simply an acknowledgement of the neoliberal state. The app challenges all aspects of racism. Policy 16. All the full knowledge of required environmental reason to exist a crucial part of eliminating the logic of neoliberal state. The tacit racist logic embedded in the many decision making the means acknowledging the degree in which racism ideology manifests economic practices and structures. And racism is already dehumanizing. Breeds ideology allowed for the Black body to be disposed of the app free things those optics and breaks down the war between the haves and have not. Walker 17. Racism is already bound the groups either markets have not. Racial structure enhance away everything because we seek to evaluate the world. Our realizing optics take their consequences about the violence against to folks and render invisible, and the body count continues to rise. And slow violence is inevitable and exponential. We refer those over Flashpoint. Exponential violence in Nixon 11. We need to rethink slow violence and violence exposure across the violence consumer and conventional event. Immediately exposure any spectral. We need to engage in violence that neither spectral nor interventional, but rather incremental. We need to engage in invisible slow violence and has some are advocating for invading African weapons of mass destruction, proposing with the fallen other conventional dimension of violence, advocating invading countries with mass forms slow motion toxicity requires rethinking and accepting assumptions of violence about the slow violence exponential operation to major threat multiplier. And with that, I'm moving for Gross.
Alright. What's machine learning?
Machine learning, well, this instance, it's more log management, so it's able to detect when an intrusion's happening in the IDS systems, track that, and then provide a good response to that security event.
Okay, is the technology already developed enough, or do we need to continue to develop it?
I'm saying that we need to implement this form of machine learning. So yeah, the government, well, the military does some things with machine learning, but they've never been taking it serious.
Okay, on the advantage, the first argument that you make is essentially that Trump administration is not focused on improving infrastructure in African American communities. How does the plan in its individual instance create a mindset change in the
We're
Trump
saying that
administration?
African American infrastructure is mostly doing it through water infrastructure, and us implementing it in water infrastructure to protect them is a shift away and shifting the right policies to protect
Sure, but how does
African
your
American.
plan affect the Trump administration's future policy?
That's just uniqueness. We're saying that we're going away from the condition of the status quo.
Okay, but you don't claim any offense like for shifts in the future administration. You can only resolve you're only resolving instances of racism.
I can't predict the future of what Trump is going to do, but I'm saying this is a good policy and we should be moving in
Sure.
that direction.
Okay. What's the impact? Like, are there
Which
multiple
one?
or is it just one?
There's multiple.
Can you explain? Can you tell me all of them?
Yeah, so I guess the policy would be the critical, saying that all racism manifests all other impacts. So it's like the root cause of these impacts. Next, the RC evidence talks about the genocide that's going unseen. And next is going to be the Lord 17 card that talks about iron overload, which is causing health condition, which causes death of a million African Americans. And then lastly, the racism from the Walker evidence that says that racism is the biggest impact, that we should prioritize that over everything else. Also, the framing of the Nixon 11 that indicates that we should be looking at slow, violent impacts instead of the flashpoint. But I don't know what else you want for that.
Okay. No, yeah, that's good. Okay, so there's like a lot of perceptual arguments in the advantage, like specifically about how like communities are seen as disposable in status quo. Like, are you able to resolve any of that with the plan?
So that's what the Paul Do evidence, the ninth card, is indicating. We're not saying that we're solving for racism. We're simply acknowledging the neoliberal state that is causing these impacts to happen. We're saying to be able to pass effective policies, we have to acknowledge the systems and break through those. So I can't just pass a plan without realizing what the systems are doing.
Okay, so it's like the acknowledgement of the AF that
Yeah.
creates the perceptual change.
Acknowledging it and investing in a form that would be protecting critical infrastructure on a disposable group of people.
Okay, and what critical infrastructure do you protect?
Water.
Okay. What does that specifically entail?
We're implementing intrusion detection. Well, we're implementing machine learning and intrusion detection systems and water management pipeline systems. So we stop attacks from happening on those systems.
Got it.
That can range from a lot, from like increasing pumps, turning off pumps, changing chemicals in them, a bunch of stuff.
Okay. All right, I'm starting prep right now.
Are you switching the overlay to be the prep?
They can see you. They can't see me.
Well, they're seeing me clowning on you,
Well,
so.
You're not a nice person.
Hey, Justin, you have paper?
No.
Yeah, can I have like one sheet of paper? I didn't really think this. I forgot my tablet, so I can't really multi-flow. Thank you.
I've never given it.
Yeah, usually the other way around.
Yeah.
Oh wow, you got please. Hey, Justin, you got a pen?
I have a pen too.
I have a pencil.
Google or Sheraton.
I'm gonna go with the G2.
It's not a G2. It's a zebra.
I'm gonna go with whatever you were gonna hand me. 5 people are legal of the Facebooks. Can they hear me from over there?
No.
Sean just sitting in the corner.
Oh, wait, you got G2s. You got like a palette that's not conflicting with wood? No, you don't. But thank you. No, we're professional out here in California. They're gonna think they need a buffer. I know I would. I'd be like, there's something wrong with this street. Should have let me know when I sent the link to my mama.
I can face. No, I can't. So.
I was gonna say, you have my
Do you
mom
have
on
a
Facebook.
Facebook?
What the fuck?
No, what I meant is I'm not allowed to message him on Facebook to share the link.
Is that a rule?
You're not supposed to have access to the internet.
Really?
I don't know if they changed that.
Just saying. Usually those last speeches, Facebook's a thing.
Live streaming.
Look, they don't do it. I know you got some weird picture of what you think the community is, Justin, but it's just a bunch of memes. Just all on the internet.
This is gonna be on Facebook.
No one's watching this.
I'll give this to kids.
Don't be him. Be a good competitor.
Alright, we got 45 seconds left.
So am I right about the criticism?
You were spot on.
Knew it.
You left me with no choice.
What? What do you mean I left with no choice? I affirmed the res.
But I had to
Okay,
do
let me
it.
download this thing. I'm really curious to know what this case is gonna be. Oh. Huh? Oh shit. Our schnitzel.
Children are watching.
There you are.
You ready?
First off, its theory and interpretation, protect means to shield from exposure, injury, damage, or destruction from Merriam-Webster, where shield means to provide with a protective cover or shelter from Merriam-Webster violations. 1. The plan does not shield critical infrastructure from exposure with defensive measures. 2. The plan only prevents damage to critical infrastructure through effects that occur indirectly as a result of the plan. 3. The plan does not provide protective cover or shelter for critical infrastructure. And 4. The act does not indicate a credible and imminent causation of damage or destruction to protect against them. And when I say if no such damage or destruction is currently happening or is certain to happen, then the app does not protect critical infrastructure. If there is a chance that no threat exists, there is violation. And 5. The app only implements machine learning but failed to actually protect water standards. The first is predictability. Without predictability, there is no way for the next to engage with the app and clash, creating good debates. The second is prep and ground skew. Deviating from the topic means they won't have enough good arguments protected against the app. Where yes, the app gets infinite time to construct their case. And third is limits with no limits on what app plans can do. They can literally do anything they want, which destroys any access to the ground and guts topic specific education. The voters first, fairness is the most important issue in the round because you can't debate it for basis and fair, and people will drop out of the activity if abuse is constant. Fairness is the internal link to education because you can't learn anything in a skewed round. Second is education. Education is the reason debate exists in the first place and helps us benefit society with our knowledge and garden debate. And TSA program because you have to know the rules of the game of debate before you can play. Prefer competing interpretations because it maximizes theory education and limits children invention, which is bad for both fairness and education. And drop the debate or not the argument because the debate damage to the round is already done and it will deter non-topical plans in the future. Framework. First, absent interrogation, all policy options are doomed to fail. Dillon and Reed 2000. Policy actors formulate novel problematizations around that they seek to sell these data. Any encounter with life with problems has re-problematization of problems is constrained by the institutional and ideological investments surrounding the segment problems and by the sheer difficulty of challenging the inescapable ontological and epistemological assumptions that go into their very formation. Yet serial policy failure compels them into a continuous search for the new analysis that will extract them from a priori which they constantly find themselves enmeshed. Serial policy failure is rooted in the epistemological assumptions that fashion the ways in which governance problematizes life. And second, failed as an illusion. Key education outweighs fairness and predictability. Orienting ourselves in the world is much more important because it actually impacts our futures instead of how we do an activity. And third, the role of the vote is to vote for the debater who best fights acceleration. The drive for an unassailable infrastructure is rooted in the worship of speed. Time conquers spaces. We see endless acceleration in the name of a solvency for a problem that will never come, which dissolves politics. Brilliant 97. The whole point of all this development is to increase the transit speed of people and goods. Pretty soon, resistance forward motion will disappear. The current warning of institutional borders echoing the decline of natural boundaries that will then be accompanied by the warning of the need to integrate to the great advantage of the city that is extraterritorial in the age of immateriality of networks and communications is gearing up to represent a possible alternative to the party of politics in the age of media communication online of the internet network. The new electronic highways will achieve global delocalization of human activity and insertion of the machine between the interactions of the nation state has led to a chaotic acceleration which obliterates autonomy independent of the framework of society. This hijacking of subjectivity is done by becoming what constitutes us. 5015. While info technologies are proving an acceleration of the rhythm of information experience, simultaneously the space for physical movement is shrinking. The introduction of electronic devices in the space between organic bodies is the cause of acceleration of the nerves, vibration up to the point of spasm. It is the link between the subjective enunciation and the cosmos between a body and the surrounding environment. Deterritorialization or jeopardizes the relation between subjectivity and its environment. The process of subjectification develops within this framework, which reshapes the composition of unconscious flow in social culture. And technologies of speed and power displace cities and have hegemonic militaristic roots. Keller 99. The democratic revolution for involves meaning fabricating speed with the instantaneous forms of warfare and communication. The vector indicates the trajectory of the various technologies along a fixed length within a direction, but from no fixed point or first standing trajectory along which goods, money, information, or military apparatuses can flow, including military circuits, territories. The space of the human habitation is a space to be defended and secured and to be invaded and colonized with the politics occurring through information circuits. The time of deliberation is obliterated. The generation of modernity involves transition from age of the brake to that of the accelerator, and hegemonic impositions of speed on individuals create a climate for total war, a complete raising of society. The souls eviscerated, leaving empty husks of humans, the aftermath of humanity. Virilio 6. Total war aims at destroying the very soul of the enemy by destruction of their environment. Dramaturgical processes impose the idea of the two types of the soul: one weak, one indecisive and vulnerable because it depends on an environment; the other powerful because it has put its will out of reach thanks to deterritorialization. We cannot exclude from war the problem of will, the latitude, multitude of bodies with no soul, living dead zombies possessive, impose all throughout history a slow motion destruction of the opponent, an economy of military violence likening the human cattle to the ancient stolen herd, the hunter raiders, and modernized militarized European societies to the proletarians. And the alternative? Vote negative to encapsulate the accidents of the 1AC in a museum. Constant exposure to the accidents of technological advancement reshape individual ontologies away from acceleration. Virilio 6. A civilization that sets MEDC to work brings accidents and catastrophes on the seed. Society developed a major risk, has the urgent need to reverse this trend, consistently exposing catastrophic accidents produced by the techno-scientific experience to establish the opposite approach, with consistently exposing or exhibiting the accidents that major modern progress to avoid an integral accident on a planetary scale. We should right now build the laboratory of cataclysms, the technical progress accident museum, so as to avoid the accident of substances at the time of the finite world is coming to an end, and there is an urgent need to assert the knowledge that marks the finitude of man, just as ecology marks that of his geophysical environment. Since cinema is time exhibiting itself as transporter ubiquity disrupts the history in the making before our general history has a result experience a new type of accident, the accident of its perception at first hand. TV channels competing for viewers has turned the catastrophic accident into a scoop, if not indeed a fantastic spectacle, to all pursue with equal vigor. And next off, cybersecurity is in a symbiotic relationship with capitalism. The 1ACs aims to conquer cyberspace, maintain class domination, and promotes imperialist violence. Woodford and Spallon 17. Cyber war is a manifestation of the revolutions by which capital renews itself. It is not just war that transforms cybernetic capitalism, but the war creates cybernetic capitalism. Capitalist technological revolutions are not able to distribute, enabling the rise of imperial amongst imperial hegemonies. The United States cyber war is intrinsic to nuclear weapons development and the defense systems that gave the United States strategic superiority of the USSR, cut the card of USSR, and its securitization of critical infrastructure as a tool to reproduce the capitalist structure. McCarthy 11. In conceptualizing cybersecurity and critical infrastructure protection as public good, the division between public and private is operative. Analysis that treat the state as a unitary actor. The view of the state as society makes it difficult to understand the purposes of cybersecurity. Cybersecurity PPPs blur the line between public and private. They appear to undermine the neutrality of the state and the provision of security as a public good. PPPs touch upon the heart of the liberal political order itself, to medical social forces, and constitute the national security institutions of states. The state is an institution that mediates between different social forces within society. Cut the card of society, and capitalist militarism guaretees extinction. This is Mesoreso 3. War at the present phase of historical development is ultimately unmovable, foreshadowing the destruction of humankind, aggressively imposing the will of one powerful state over all the others, as absurdly camouflaged as a purely limited war, leading to other open-ended limited wars. The weapons available for waging wars of the 21st century are capable of exterminating not only the adversary, but the whole of humanity. Cut the card of humanity. The first alternative is to refuse the action in the face of the crisis presented by the affirmative and do nothing. Here's the evidence that says that solves. That's Zizeko 4. The first act is to succumb to the temptation to act, but to question hegemonic ideological coordinates. When you practice criticism, you are also obliged to say how one should make it better. Cut the card at better. And the second alternative is a secret to reveal all the methods behind intellectual warfare to kill the chance of all solvency. Man 96. In critical discourse, it is crucial for combatants not to know their enemy, to project intended paper figure distortion against which they can conceive and reinforce their own positions. One identifies one's own signal in part by jamming everyone else's, setting it off from the noise one generates around it. Imagine what might be possible for writing that is not insistently positional, and quickly go to the case. There's no way that they're going to be able to resolve root cause of racism. And second of all, root cause claims are bad because they create tunnel vision and avoid intersectionality.
Ready?
Yep.
Okay, what the heck is this K about?
So, wait, the first one?
There's multiple? Well, news to me. Yeah, so what's this first one about?
The first one is Virilio. It basically just says that your drive and desire to constantly accelerate the development of technology is uniquely bad because it integrates technology and the non-human subject into the space where the human subject exists.
And then how's your alt get rid of that?
The alt gets rid of that. So the alternative, if I win this round, we will take the 1AC, the doc of the 1AC that you sent me, and post it on a Tumblr page that we've created that we call the museum. It's called the Museum of Accidents, and it's essentially an exemplification of exactly what Virilio is saying we should avoid doing. And by doing that, we're saying that in the debate space, we create an exemplification of basically the link, like why we shouldn't be doing this anymore.
Okay, What's that second K all about?
That's cap.
So we're running a cap K and then running Valeria low.
Yeah,
Why are we running multiple Ks?
why not?
Okay. This T stuff. What's the violation?
The violation, I mean, I read 5. I'd say the most like understandable one is probably that the plan only prevents damage to critical infrastructure through effects that occur indirectly as a result of the plan. The plan
What?
is just to implement machine learning, which ultimately may protect water systems from critical infrastructure or complex catastrophe attacks, but like the plan in itself doesn't do anything.
So where's the actual violation? Isn't that, this sounds like a solvency issue.
I mean, I just read the violation. You want me to read more of them?
That's fine. Let me get more of this stuff. For the sake of the doc, where did you actually stop?
I read everything except for the 2 solvency cards. They're on the very bottom.
Alright.
And I cut 2 cards, I think.
So this thing that's just titled 1 and C is the second criticism, right?
What?
The thing that's just titled 1 and C is the second criticism in here?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay. So this isn't really, it's just applications 2Ks. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
There's fiat illusory type stuff.
Yeah.
So does that mean we just shouldn't use fiat?
I mean, we're saying that critique education is uniquely better because fiat creates this role-playing mindset where we don't actually create education based off of our own ontological place in society. We
So
create
is
it
that
based off of
bad for like learning about the state? Like,
Sure,
what about
I'd
all
say
the
it
stuff that
reproduces
works-
bad like structures of education. It creates like this. It constructs this idea that we are constantly in a position of power, and like that's how our decision making should be carried out.
Oh, that's that Valerio stuff. That makes sense. 30 seconds left. I'm just saving the dog.
The file name is hot. It's just
Oh, this is gonna be interesting. I can only guarantee I know what the hell this is. I can't. I know what the T is. 6 minutes, right? Order. It's gonna be the topicality. Sorry, I've been trying to find the doc that I just sent to you. Okay. It's gonna be the topicality. Then it's gonna be the framework for the first criticism. Then it's gonna be the first K. Then it's gonna be the second K. There might be new sheets in between. Just keep them in hand.
yeah, just let me know when you get to it.
A lot of this is not the easiest to track, but okay. Whoa, one sec. Where is this? Where did you go? Okay, good. First, on the topicality, I mean the one I see me utilize to protect and measure a counter interpretation that DoD defends protecting 5 groups. And the app is an active reacting to those cyber attacks. DoD 18 persistent counters 5 groups in activity, handling the positions, protecting personnel, assuming mission oriented, protecting processors and physical defensive measures, and reacting to attacks. I argue that we are doing a reaction. That's what the IDS systems are. We realize that there's an attack happening and we react to it. And proper response being I do not violate. Go to the violations here. All of his violations don't actually make any sense. They're all questions of like effects of the plan. That's exactly what the plan is asking us to do. It's asking us to react to something that's happening. Therefore, there's no violation on there. Drop down to the standards debate. None of the standards debates actually make any sense here at the point where I'm actually meeting their interpretation. I mean, there's no reason for you to actually vote here, but onto the dump down to the voters here. One, I want to say reasonability. At any point where you feel like this T is literally just at times like doesn't actually mean anything, you don't vote on this T, but also reasonability counts here. If I can win that my interpretation is the best way to view this round, then you're going to vote here. I argue that mine is less limiting than his and doesn't actually just put a weird or like arbitrary term to what protecting is, and even under his own definition, I'm meeting either way, so you're never going to vote there. Next, go to the criticism, or at least the framework of the first K. One, he says that there's absence of interrogation. I argue that he's wrong. You can extend across the Policy 16 and the Walker 17 cards that both are an indictment of the statement that is already interrogating, meaning that I do not violate on his framework anyways. At best, I'm doing it better than he is. Next, he tries to make this weird argument about the role of the ballot judge. I argue that he doesn't actually give you any reasons why you should be preferring this over anything else. Also, this kind of conflicts with his other criticism that is being ran there, meaning there's no real way to actually ever have a role of the ballot here. Therefore, you should probably default to the rules of NFALD that say that we're going to be preferring this over a net beneficial paradigm, meaning you should be able to weigh the impacts of the affirmative against this criticism. Next, go to the first criticism. Drop down to the link level. One, he doesn't give you really any real indication of how this link level is actually unique to the instance. All he says is that we're trying to implement technology and that technology is bad. One, he already asked me during cross-check if this technology already exists. I'm saying, yeah, they just don't take it seriously, meaning that the links of all this criticism would have already happened, meaning the impacts should have already been triggered, which they do not. Therefore, there's no reason for you to vote on here. But next, drop down to the alt proper. One, perm, do the ethic of the plan, and then, do the ethic of the criticism, and then do the plan. He doesn't give you any real reason why we can't embrace this, the stopping of acceleration. He's going to try to come up here and give you all these new reasons, but realizes that he never articulated any of these reasons in the original speech. He's just going to be able to conflate and pick out whatever he wants on here. Next, go drop down to the alt, on the solvency. One, your author is bad, and he even says it doesn't work seriously. Brown 18, all the evidence in irony withdrawing the general spectrum towards everything, including itself, and does not make it too serious. And final paragraph says, do not believe me. And second, the author is low-key kind of off there. He's saying don't take his practical approach to policies. 12. The second hand, unlearned behavior in foreign technology and organizing weapons struggles. The powerful contributes time in exchanging one of the ultimate leads to a backlog in DOI culture and overreaching policies and reaching the liberal policies into a room self-fulfilling prophecy and broke or correctly analyze the correct conjunction to clear evidence opposed to explosive structure shrouded in weakening the left crisis and proliferation of new labors and impact and subject to the history of political leading to those wrong duties. Cut card there. Next, the K is contradictory, where the fact that he's running 2 criticisms makes it impossible, meaning you should probably drop one of these criticisms or just drop him as a debater. The rules indicate that you only get position of you don't get positions that are contradictory, and the fact that his alt is so vague, it makes it impossible to ever point out those contradictories. NFA 14. Contributing logical and within the only negative contribution during the debate and instantly rising affirmative point out the justice should reject those arguments and this is a counter proposal. And the nay has the same burdency of solvency. NFA 14. Counter proposal is subject to the same burden of solvency that requires an affirmative, meaning that you always going to weigh my app against this criticism, meaning that my app already outweighs this when all the Walker evidence goes conceded onto the app. Next, he doesn't actually show you any propensity to be able to solve my harm's area of my affirmative, meaning you're never going to be preferring there. Next, the counter proposals cannot deal with forms of government or economic systems or further study. NFA 14, the negation may present in the counter proposal not dealing with government and economic structures or further need for study. His entire app, like his entire alternative is requiring for further studies, but you don't understand what it's doing. He's going to come up here and say that, yeah, we're going to be posting this stuff to Tumblr and all this is going to be investigated and be worried that's how you solve for it, but that is exactly the further study. We're going to have to wait until after this round to even see this this alternative would ever be able to solve. This is abusive for the affirmative. Next, you should look to the rules. 1. I argue that he's running a topicality that's trying to tell you to vote for the rules anyways, but you should probably refer to the rules anyways because like you have to be able to do this to run effectively. I'm not reading the card. Next, go to the perms. 1. Perms do both. Learning about the state is key to like breaking through it. Copeman 18. But effective struggles that have been effective beyond utilizing imperialism, carrying out only signal ignoring when those truths are practicing outside the power and operations and those taking steps in landing in the building of the new house and those subject to new plot and building materials recycled from the house. Good card there. And combining multiple strategies, the best approach to overcoming oppression. Rogers 02. Postmodern platonism is definitely nonviolence and contributing those unleashing individuals and all members of those non-groups and members discourse and experiencing the vision necessary to grind the kind of policies contributing to those communities, those worlds. Cut card there. And perm on the alternative, perm do the alt and then the plan. 2. Perm do the plan and the alt at the same time. 3. Perm do the plan and the ethic of the K. 2. Prefer the function. Perm functions because the alt alone doesn't actually solve for any of the lives that are happening on the affirmative, meaning that we already resolved for that, and the fact that yeah, like the links don't really matter here. Next, the alt has a time trade-off. You're always gonna have like 5 to 10 years to even know if this alt ever solved. We're gonna have to wait for this criticism to get like put up on Tumblr to even know if it works. Therefore, you're already gonna prefer the impacts that are happening. That's the Nixon 11 card. You're preferring those volume of impacts that are happening there. Next, LD literally says that you can't have counter proposals that do not solve for the harms, which is just not. You never vote there. Next, go to the second criticism. 1, go to the link. There's literally no link where he says that because we're not, like, we're doing the security logic and not acknowledging the racism. That's literally the policy evidence where we're saying we're acknowledging the environmental racism, the capital structure that are going against African Americans, meaning I do never actually link to this. Also go to the alt. You can extend across the perms from the first criticism onto the same alt. It's the same thing. But next, you can extend across the NFL rule. I guess this is a new sheet. The interpretation I want to see is only allowed 1 counter proposal. Violations that they are doing, that's, like, they're doing more than 2. Standards 1. The rules of NFLD say that you're only getting only one instance of being able to do a counter proposal. Rolling multiple mean that we're never going to be able to debate the world. Debate the actual merits of the plan, meaning there's always too much things spreading out the affirmative, meaning they're never able to actually get into a substance debate, which only kills the education and debate. That's gonna be on voters. You should be like dropping multiple. You should be dropping him from the debate with the fact where he's running multiple counter plans. He's gonna be able to kick out 1. He skews the affirmative, and this is just an instance of killing education because it's just about who can speed the fastest. And destroys all novice debate and debate as a substantive event.
I have 45 seconds. Let me just upload this real quick. Okay, what is it? Alright, well, it's gonna be theory on top.
Which
My theory. Then Virilio. cat, and actually, sorry, I'm gonna put case on top. Case on top, then my theory, Virilio, cat. And I will signpost to the best of my ability. I know it's a little.
Cap's the last one, right?
Yeah. All right. Everyone ready?
Mm-hmm. No, actually. I'm good.
Ready, New York?
You will be voting neg on presumption even if you aren't going to be voting for the theory or either of the case because they fundamentally conceded an argument that was a small argument at the very end of my speech that specifically said that you were never going to be able to resolve a problem that has you were never going to be able to resolve the root cause of a problem with a single action. I also say that trying to address and specifically address root cause problems is going to create tunnel vision that avoids focus on intersectionality, which is a unique disadvantage to the case. They don't extend anything else on the case, which probably means you can vote presumption on the case alone. Go on to the theory show. Extend the Wii Meets. On Virilio. They say that they interrogate and they do it better, but we say that your interrogation is only specifically in the context of water and the development of protective infrastructure. We say that we have to interrogate all actions. You specifically have not interrogated your connection to speed and development and and essentially all the things that Bifo talks about. It's clear that the interrogation is there, and second of all, the argument in and of itself is that we have to interrogate these methods before we propose a policy. That means that the proposal of the plan that happens in the 1AC is the unique problem, and that is why you lead to serial policy failure. They have conceded a serial policy failure argument that is going to be damning and means that they have absolutely no hope of solving the affirmative, even if I have nothing left on the flow, because it specifically says that without interrogating your policy further and considering more implications than just its connection to race relations, that means your policies are always going to fail and are always just going to lead to further oppression, which means you again could vote neg on presumption there. Then they say that there's no reason for my roll of the ballot, but there's also no counter roll of the ballot, and there's no reason against my roll of the ballot. You should vote for the team that best fights acceleration, because we say that acceleration creates the most unique and terminal impact scenario that we are able to resolve. Next, they say that we should be able to weigh the impacts of the case versus the critique. Okay, first of all, no, you do not weigh the impacts of the case versus the critique, because it's post fiat versus pre fiat, because the impacts of the critique are already happening right now, because it has fundamentally shifted our mindset on our conceptions of speed and acceleration and technology. And second of all, even if you weigh the case versus the K, we're still going to be outweighing, because ultimately the impact on Virilio is cyclical violence and a loss of humanity, which ultimately leads to a loss of life that they can never resolve with the case. They might be able to resolve this in some African American communities, but we say that this is a totalizing impact that outweighs on every single level. And the next argument they make is essentially that we don't have a unique link story, and that specifically this technology already exists. But I would say that our link story is actually absurdly unique in this instance, because it says specifically, the card that I read that says the insertion of the machine into the organic human body is what creates this acceleration of technology. And the plan is a perfect example of an instance in which we are inserting the machine into the organic human body and trying to make those things into one functioning organism, whereas they simply can't be. This creates the acceleration and ultimately leads to the impact scenarios that I talk about. They concede the impacts page, which specifically says that the acceleration of technology is going to lead to the displacement of cities, and it also leads to hegemonic and militaristic roots in societies that creates a climate for total war that ultimately leads to a loss of value of life and major death and possibly even extinction. These are 100% probable impacts, and that means you have to evaluate them first, because probability is going to be the first thing that you evaluate in this round, because improbable impacts should not be considered at face value. Second of all, these impacts are going to outweigh any of the race relations impacts, because these affect African Americans and they affect other communities, including communities that are in privilege. It means that it is a totalizing impact. On the alternative, there's going to be a ton of perms that you're going to be evaluating on this alternative sheet, but it's going to be really easy for you to reject the perms and vote for the K alone, because the alternative within itself cannot be permed. At the point in which you vote for the affirmative, we are not going to put their document into our Tumblr page, and it's not going to be put into the museum. I am essentially saying the only way that you can overcome and resolve these impacts is by displaying the 1AC in the museum. So there's no way to overcome the links of the 1AC and still perm, because I'm literally not going to post it on on Tumblr after this round if I lose. That has been my philosophy, and that has been how I've been running this critique for the entire year. Second of all, on the perm arguments, your perm is uniquely going to fail because when the object of a project is to increase its speed, the attempt to go faster always comes first, which makes critical reevaluation impossible. Baldwin 2. Digital technology allows us to live much faster than our minds that we can in our bodies. Cyberspace where we can make a sense of time. We want our bodies to and our senses to respond as quickly as our brains can process information. All theories of media imply a mode of accuracy and effectively the ground. Theory and perception, we live at higher speeds and modern technological culture. Speed has been internalized and in itself, and the ecstasy of the crash eliminates the internalization of speed. Real time suggests the need for speed in the effort to resolve this tension to drive with no outer limit. Real time brings the identification of speed with online response time and processor power, assimilating the user to the system. There is no upper limit when speed is the coefficient of profit. The possibility of 24-hour real-time stock close shows how the conditioning specific local temporal orders by the regime of real-time. Real-time refers to no specific time, but a generalized time determined by response speed. No moment is fixed or present. Each tumbles into the next. Each event has already decided by the speed of real-time. And then second, they make arguments that essentially we have two contradicting positions. We would say that because they don't read Kondo, I'm just going to kick the second critique, which probably means that I don't have that. I don't still have a contradicting position. Second of all, they don't give you a single reason these are contradictory positions. We could easily say that Berillio and Zizek and other capitalist authors and other anti-cap authors agree on many of these arguments, which probably means that unless they prove to you with 100% certainty that these are conflicting advocacies, and there's no reason that you should vote against them. Next, they go for author index, and they say that their author is crazy and low-key crazy, but we would say this is probably some pretty ableist language and possibly a unique reason to vote down the debater, because calling an author crazy and using and normalizing the term crazy probably is uniquely bad for mentally ill people who exist not only in the debate space but outside of the debate space, because the term crazy is just applied to people who have radical ideas. And finally, they say that we don't solve the harms of the app and that we aren't able to resolve the harms of the app, but we say that we definitely resolve the harms of the app at the point in which we prevent a complex catastrophe of total war, which is a conceded impact on the critique. I only read the first card in that doc, if it matters.
Sure.
That's the right answer.
Did you learn anything?
Order is going to be case. Basically, it's going to be the same order. So it's going to be case, then it's going to be the first criticism, then it's going to be the I don't know where you flowed the rules stuff I had on my first criticism.
Alright, yeah.
Like the 5 rules that I've written down. And then it's going to be that new sheet that was whatever you titled it.
The counter proposal thing?
Yeah.
Only one counter? Cool, I did put that on another sheet. Cool.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
First one, case he tries to say voting on presumption, and then he tries to make this argument saying that he's like moving, like I didn't answer these case arguments. One, I argued that these were just blippy arguments that were never actually warranted, maybe probably meaning you're never gonna actually vote there. You cannot just say stuff at the end of your timer when the timer's literally beeping and try to drop to that. Therefore, I still get access to it, and also I argue that I literally extended my case through all answering of his like criticism. That was literally when I'm extending Walker in the Paul do evidence throughout the entirety of the speech. Therefore, I will get access to that. If I can show that I have any solvency, meaning it's already a turn to the AF, meaning you're always gonna vote AF on that question. Next, go to the framing. He's trying to say I don't interrogate the notions of it. I say extend across the Paul do evidence is the whole point. I'm saying your research methodology matters when making these AF, meaning I've already interrogated it. Therefore, he's not winning on that framework. Next, he says roll the ballot. He says I don't give you any counter roll the ballot. Cody, yes, I goddamn did. That was the rules argumentation that I put on there, saying that we should reevaluate the rules over this roll the ballot because he didn't give you any justification why he can just shift advocacies to whatever he wants later on. That's literally what he did in the round. Next, drop down to where he says K versus race, K versus race in the fiat argumentation I say on there. When I say the research methodology already checks back where this does not actually matter, means it's the same mindset shift that's happening on the affirmative that's happening on the neg. When we evaluate Paul do evidence, we evaluate the Walker evidence, saying that we have to reevaluate our orientation to this topic, means that we already did that question, therefore I'm already getting the same access to his framing on here. Next, drop down to the alternative on the first criticism. One, he doesn't actually answer back on all these very well. He just says that I can't perm because he's not going to go on Tumblr or whatever. That's exactly what I'm talking about, Cody. That's the argumentation I read there from the NFA rules from 14. I literally say the prior need for research and study. There's no way to ever know when this alternative is going to solve because he says if he doesn't win, he's not going to post it. How do we know if that's even true? There's no way to know that. It's just further study mean that you can never evaluate the criticism. You can already vote him down there. He does not answer back any of these rule violations, so you can already vote him down there. Next, I argue that he doesn't actually solve the harms area of the affirmative. He just says that he doesn't give you any warranted out arguments to say that he actually does. Therefore, you can already vote him down on that rule also. He cannot literally say rules do not matter, read a topicality, and then still violate rules. Pick one. Next, drop down to the next perm. He says that, like, yeah, the perm... Yeah, he says that the contradictory argument, that's exactly where I'm going for. The fact that I'm not able to point out contradictions because you can just drop out anyways. It makes it impossible forever to be the firm because you can just skew F ground. Next, he says that that I never read condo. I don't have to read condo. First off, I kind of did. But I don't have to read condo. Those are exactly the rules that indicate that like you're just breaking rules and being able to just drop out any position, making it impossible ever debate. Meaning you already are going to drop the criticism. You do not evaluate the criticism, which means I already win on F presumption, I guess. Go to the second criticism. He tries to kick out of this capitalism one, but this is the exact proven abuse that I have on that second sheet. Well, whatever you called it, Cody, on the sheet. This is exactly the criticism that I'm saying, that he only allowed to run one position because he's able to just drop out and kill all affirmative ground on there. I've already spent my time trying to answer that position. He just simply kicks out. It means that we lose out all education there. That's exactly what I'm saying about novice debate. When a novice comes in debates that have people running multiple conditions like this, it makes it impossible to keep up with them. It just comes to debate about who's the fastest speaker. That ruins all the educational debate in here. Meaning you should reject the criticism. He doesn't get options to choose which one he rejects. You reject both of them. You're not able to run those positions. Those are the rules. He doesn't answer back why rules are good, doesn't give you rules are bad. You can drop all of those. You vote F simply because I have an F that actually solves and he doesn't solve the harms area of those. All right.
I'm gonna call it multi-advocacy as the theory sheet. If you see that, that's what I'm referencing.
Got it.
Okay. I really don't know.
I literally just made up name on the spot and didn't remember that name.
Neither do I. That's what I'm calling it. So if you see that reference in the RFD, that's what that's referencing.
If I throw the pen right at the webcam, you think they'll get afraid?
What?
If I throw the pen right at the webcam, you think the people watching will get afraid?
Please do not.
Please don't.
You're gonna break both my webcam and my pen.
I'll use his.
Very nice.
You can use mine. By all means.
Why are you nodding your head no at me?
You're such a clown sometimes.
Are people even watching this?
Yes.
I wouldn't watch this.
Do you have the names of the people watching you?
No.
Who's watching?
What kind of nerd is just sitting here watching the debate?
Right?
Okay, I'm gonna
True. I didn't even get an option to sign up for this tournament. I just got an email saying you better show up.
Did you have a card for that on case argument that you ran about root cause?
No, there was no card.
Think how Joey was watching you at home.
Bowers? Why would you do that, Joey? You got way better
Bowers
things to
TV
do. You got better things to do than that.
Alright, so at the ready?
Abel says you need to be close to the microphone for your RFD.
Why are you watching, Abel? You fucking
Abel's
weirdo.
watching too? Yeah.
Freaking weirdo.
Oh,
We got more people watching now for the RFP than
They're like, we'll just wait for it to be over.
Alright, so Nig makes a detrimental mistake in the 1NR in assuming that kicking out of one of the Ks solves the offense on the multi-advocacy theory sheet. At the end of the day, Kevin wins this argument, and I buy that as a reason to drop the critiques. This just leaves the on-case argument about how he can't solve for root cause. However, I don't pull the trigger on that for two reasons. One is Kevin makes arguments on top of it. Two is it's not carded, right? If you had more warrants on it, I'd definitely be more willing to pull the trigger. But absent that, there's just nothing left to vote for you for. I think if you had gone harder on the Viraloke and the multi-advocacy theory sheet, those should have been the two things that you hammered down, and it probably could have been the negative ballot. Any questions?
How do you evaluate the ableism arguments about like your author is crazy?
Those aren't well enough impacted. I want normally when I see that, I want to see specific framework give me why I should evaluate this before everything else. But absent that framework as to why I should evaluate before everything else, I default to evaluating the previous positions first.
Did I not censor that when I read it? Okay. I'm like, I would have sworn I looked at it real quick. I'm like, did I forget to change that?
I definitely changed it. Like that's the weakest part of the case, and that's the first thing I thought. That was the only thing that was missing on that for me to vote for. Was this is more important than everything else.
And on what was it? Sorry, I had a question. I just totally forgot it. On the like serial policy failure, you vote on presumption arguments. Do those like go out the window with the multi-advocacy theory?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's all.
Cool.
Thank you.
No problem.